Huh? Oh, wow. Okay. Hey, thanks for joining. Good to see you. Great to see you. Oh, wow. It's so great to see you. Oh man, I'm gonna break it down tonight. Oh, am I gonna break it down tonight? It's gonna be like Soul Train in here. Break it down, break it down. Woo! I just wanted to jump right into it though. There's a lot of things happening. For me, it's a lot of noise. Um, interesting time. Interesting time. Lots of news. Different things happening. What is this? It feels more chaotic than anything. And there are a lot of people right now experiencing uh, trouble with navigation as the promises of the old world are being repackaged. The old world promised certain things if you did certain things, and it has this long history of promising things and then long term contracts. And when those contracts come close to an end and the narration changes, the wording changes, suddenly there's more to be done, extended contracts, things like that, generally speaking. And I like to stay on a general because I'm not very educated on the specific. There will come a point to where I have worked on my hyper self analytical nature to the point to where I'm not actively deterring myself from operating in my full intelligence by doing study in a way to where I remember sources and I credit sources. As it stands now, I have a lot on my mind and I have not developed the capacity for storing sources saying where I got my information from and then giving credit to the names that provided information. Though I do understand that that is something that I'd like to cultivate, and it is only a matter of time before I work that into this here series. So that should be a fun development. Yeah, so it's a lot of noise and factors. Okay, there's a lot happening, there's a lot of chaos. There's real chaos, and then there's fabricated chaos. And that's always been a factor. But then AI adds a factor to where you kind of scale up fabricated chaos. Because, okay, classifications of fabricated chaos. Paid protesters. Paid protesters is fabricated chaos. Um, let's see. I think the most important thing, and I spoke on this before, is that fabricated chaos is something that could be very effective for getting people to move in a particular way. Because just because the chaos and its source is not authentic, it doesn't mean that the damage and the threat isn't real. So I think that's what I'd like to state to keep things simple. In fabricated chaos, the damage and the threat can be and usually is real. But the cause of the chaos has something to do with a hat trick. It's something to do with look over here and focus on this, even though this is the real root cause. So you could consider fabricated chaos a deterrent mechanism of abusers. I'm not necessarily sure if, yeah, I want to loop it all up with abusers. Maybe there's a deeper link, a more appropriate word to use, but for now I'll use abuser. Yeah, as far as a tactic or, yeah, something that would be used to deter one from finding truth or finding resolution. Finding resolution. Gaining a greater scope and understanding of the matters at hand. That's a different thing. Right now, I'm recording a video, and the purpose of this video is to talk about saturation. I personally feel that I've succeeded in contributing to a positive form of saturation through my expressions, through doing this and then weaving it into my public platforms. So this is a platform, and I could boost this platform by using other platforms to boost it. It's not something like I didn't say anything crazy just now. Something that a lot of people are doing nowadays. But the intention and the nature of what I'm doing right now is unique to me and unique to the times. You could say that it goes against the grain. Or you could say, as opposed to saying that it goes against the grain, because going against the grain gives the grain power. And we're talking about personal power. A lot of personal power has to do with detaching your mind from outsourcing power. There are many levels that we have to address personally to uncouple from so that we can become more whole. Prejudices, biases, things of that nature. Uncoupling from these things makes us more whole, and it enables us to engage in true forms of revolt. True forms of revolt are universal in that they empower individual people to operate within their maximum capacity to create change, which is revolutionary. So, revolution does happen on multiple levels, internal and external. And both of those parts make up revolution. People envision revolution as a uniting and a gathering of people at the same time in one physical place, and that's very limiting considering all the technological advances that have been made. If we were truly thinking for ourselves, then we would be able to appropriately update old frameworks and make them fit in a way to where it feels right. Like right now, I'm seeing a lot of technological advancement and not a lot of revising of old things that could already be helped by said technological advancement, as opposed to revising of the old things, even in the mind, to say we don't have to do things this way because this is available to us. I don't want to get. It's nice to have a point. Because when you have a point, you get to make the point. Saturation refers to the state where a substance, space, or market is completely filled, soaked, or supplied to maximum capacity, allowing no further absorption or addition. So, it is a state where a space is completely filled, saturation, allowing no further absorption or addition. So that equates to what I'm feeling right now, which is noise. Noise makes people shut down, overloads them, or it makes them hyper engaged, which would lead them to eventually being shut down, and whatever else you can think of. Now, that is the textbook definition of saturation. It describes a substance or market being completely filled. Substance, space, or market supplied to maximum capacity. So, there's a link between everything that I'm saying in this video and everything that I have said. I'm just using different words. I mentioned mediocrity. I mentioned um, adherence to old ways without proper vetting. And now saturation also plays a part in that as it pertains to making change. Saturation in art refers to the intensity, purity, or vividness of a color, defining how bright or dull a hue appears. I'm reading this from a web search. It controls visual impact, creates emotional mood, and determines depth. 14 minutes? I bet. So in the art, I mentioned contrast. I mentioned that we all have our own individual colors. I mentioned that by colors, I mean expressions, trying my best to associate the concept of colors relative to human beings being associated with the concept of honest expression. Honest expression is a color. Your voice, your your um, your mannerisms, uh, your highs, your lows, the things that excite, the things that entice, the things that aggravate. They contribute to the color that a person leaves in the world. Some people, going to refer back to the search here. I just started off the sentence with some people, right? So saturation in art refers to intensity, purity, or vividness of a color, defining how bright or dull a hue appears. Saturation in art refers to the intensity, purity, or vividness of a color, defining how bright or dull a hue appears. So some people, and I've also mentioned this in the art, some people, maybe I did. Some people have bright colors, they have bright hues, and some people have duller hues. And those hues are a reflection of the colors that we have and our relation to them. So it's two things: the colors that we have and the relation to them. I don't believe that um, I don't believe that in the conceptualization of colors that I'm building, that there should be a limit to uh, you can choose to stay a color and you can choose to not stay a color. That's basically where I'm going with this whole thing. Um, we have inclinations, and those inclinations point us to how they point us to things that would inspire us to have a deeper relation with our colors. So we're always being inspired into deeper relation with our colors. We're always being drawn into awareness of how our palette interacts with the canvas. The relative and the absolute. I am one of many. I am a node, a musical note that fits into a symphony. I am a color, an ink blot on the canvas, taking up one space of many spaces, accompanied by other colors that create tension or harmony or both. And that too is a symphony, a visual symphony on the canvas. What happens when value is saturated by comfort? What you get is confusion. You create a space for greed to grow. Greed can be aroused by lack. Associating with lack, experiencing lack, makes one susceptible to greed. It makes greed something one could justify. And people who operate on greed can recruit. They can recruit through indirect means people who are susceptible to further on the will of the spirit of greed. And what I'm saying there is that knowingly, unknowingly, there are many situations in which you could justify an action, framing it to be something lesser, when in actuality, your susceptibility to framing that thing as lesser is being counted on by a manipulative party so that they can keep this machine going to where they extract greed. You are susceptible to greed if you experience lack, if you identify with lack, if you project lack, then greed is something you are susceptible to. Susceptibility is one thing. Now, when you're ensnared, that's another thing. When you're ensnared, now you're an associate, you're an accomplice. And that means that you share the same penalties that the spirit of greed would have. And greed does have penalties when it goes outside, when it finds itself outside of its domain as anything else. So if you're susceptible, that's one thing. But if you're ensnared, it would help someone who's greedy and who is ensnared, and by ensnared meaning they are greedy and they are in relation with their greed, coming to terms with it, negotiating a way to find middle ground with greed, to make greed work. Something I would be called being ensnared. It would help you, if you're a greedy person, to keep people unaware. Because the more people are aware, the less chances you have to take from them. Greed. A lot of times, I'm not even going to put a statistic to it. Greed could either be out in the front or it can be under the covers. The more awareness increases, the less opportunity there is for under the cover greed to make its way. And so it's in the interest of the greedy, those who aspire to have and care not what others do not have, amongst other things. It is within the interest of maintaining whatever position the greedy wants to attain, to keep people outside of the know, to prevent them from coming to a particular resolution. I'm about to go off. Right now, the world is saturated by a model that feigns effectiveness, an effectiveness that, when pit against mine, seems not so effective. And according to some of the people who I've come across, and the fact that they've changed their ways, it could be said that in comparison, my way highlights their ineffectiveness so much that the old way becomes obsolete. And it's made apparent that for that person, they're better off freestyling than going with the grain. Because the grain has all of these things within it. And those things aid greedy people. Wherever gaps in awareness can be made, they will be made. And lots of money will be spent to make them. Because the people who make money, not all of them are greedy. But a lot of the greedy people do have money. The most greedy people, a lot of them do have money. It goes right back into the pattern that I'm saying. Why would you spend your money this way? Well, I'm spending my money in this way, and I'm framing the way that I'm doing in this particular way. Because I want to receive something from you, and I want to keep you at a level of awareness to where I can receive more from you over time. When ethics like this fall into food, shelter, and water, there is a problem. I'd say outside of that, there is room for conversation and putting ethics on the back burner, right? Ethics and morality have a domain, and there are certain places where they just don't fit. And that's very true. But the places where they do fit, they definitely fit, and they need to be there because they serve their purpose. So right now, there's a saturation with the market, the way people think, the way people are going about this. Um, there's a saturation in questions not being asked, and what happens to value? What happens to genuine expression, valuable expression, when people are deterred from bringing their colors to the canvas? That's it. That's it right there. That's a saturation, man. Saturation in art, the vividness, the hue. Um, right now, there are people who are maintaining themselves in a world that seems to be getting grayer. And I would say, through reference of my art analogy, I see something else that also plays into the art. When saturation appears, different things are seen because of so much noise. There's different things to be pulled out. That's all art too. Like it's a chaotic thing, but with enough different kind of eyes, you'll have a better chance for someone to see what's really there despite the saturation. Variety contributes to resolution, and variety on the canvas appears as chaos. Variety in colors on the canvas appears as chaos. That chaos can be something good and it can be something bad. But color on a canvas is a chaotic thing. There's soft chaos and there's hard chaos, but once you start doing blends and mixtures and applications, like art is a very simple thing, but everything underneath that is like super meta. Like super meta, bro. Like all stretching and stuff. You get me though? Y'all get me? Y'all thinking about what I'm dropping right now, man? If influential platforms, if influential companies, people, if influential people use their status to drive people in a direction that does not contribute to their growth, then something needs to change. Something will change. Something has to change. I'll start. I'll start with me. Starting with me, I'll change, right? And then we'll see how things go from there. I've been doing this for like, what, a year, 2 years now. There are other people, they also decided they're just going to start recording things. And then, like 2 years, 3 years into recording things, they get better at speaking. They get more confident being themselves. They find more balance. They get some people to follow behind them. How is that not revolution? Irrelevant people have saturated the market. When I say the market, I mean all markets. A greater part of the saturation that happened during 2020 was the flooding of entitlement and confidence into people who prior people who lived in a world to where you had to do good work and show good work were rightfully so left out if they could not do good work and show good work. And the great saturation happened when those people were emboldened through indirect means to come out and express themselves in their full vitality without any shame or consideration to their stance. Right? And also when I say that, without any shame or consideration to their stance, also what I'm saying right there is all the ignorance is bliss people, they're being jacked up right now by Big Daddy Screen. They think they matter more than they actually do, or I have to be more accurate. They think they matter in a godly sense when they matter in a manly sense. And they know not the distinction between the two. I do. And that's why when it comes to stepping into the arena, when I'm pit against certain ways of thinking, when I'm pit against certain ideologies, I crush them. I feel good. I did a lot to bring myself to a point to where I could speak on particular things without getting outside of my energies to tackle difficult problems, to tackle difficult conversations, and still maintain grace, to still maintain level headedness, and to still hold to the objectivity of resolution. That's that's key. Saturation is a good thing or it's a neutral thing. The same way I frame chaos as a neutral thing. I think the more I talk in the human element, the more I'll be bringing people towards a true sense of balance in the way of sight. Balanced sight. Balanced sight will give you a better chance, right? There's many levels of saturation happen right now. Um, like right now, when it comes to capable people, there's way more different ways to view capable people than there was 5 years, 10 years back. Like there wasn't really a point in my life to where I could be considered like ADHD or anything like that. But they're pushing forward these sciences by these professionals. And the science and the profession is supposed to be this all-encompassing thing, right? Like if you go to a professional, you basically yield to them as if they're connected to the highest form or the highest methodologies, right? Because there's different methods, and then you basically yield and say because you went through this program, you went through this system, you got it. And then what happens? People grow up. There's a high number of misdiagnosed people, right? And what misdiagnosed really means is that before you even had a chance to correctly evaluate your life, you were given a frame, and that frame was given more precedence over your own truth before you even had a chance to stand up for your own truth. That's what it really means to be misdiagnosed. Being misdiagnosed just means you had your life stolen from you in another way. Like, okay, I had my childhood um, ended with maturity, right? So I had to grow up fast. And that's one of the ways that could happen. And the other way that could happen is being misdiagnosed, right? So there's something that's manifesting within you. Everybody in society is sane. Um, and because they're sane, if you make them uncomfortable, that must mean, if you make people uncomfortable in mass, that must mean that you are the crazy one and that there's no case to be opened for anything in between that, which really serves the people who would prefer that humanity does not push forward. Because if you can frame me as having a disability before I show you that I have a superpower, then what you're really doing is you're creating difficulty when it comes to the representations of colors on the canvas. And it's like, oh, you really don't want intelligent colors on a canvas. You actually don't want finesse on a canvas. When I'm saying you, I mean anyone who is threatened by the freedom of others, anyone who is threatened by competence, anyone who is threatened by the honoring of the highest self through genuine expressions. Anyone who's threatened by that, when I say you, in that particular instance, that's what I was referring to. If the market was saturated with men like me, who I am now, and also who I will be in the coming, I'm always changing. So I feel like my current version right now is good. Based on the ladies definitely seem to think that I'm a catch. So that's cool. That's cool considering how good the world has been framing my qualities as loser qualities while framing loser qualities as masculine qualities. I don't want to get too off kilter here. I did stand up. You see how I stand up though, right? You see you see how I stood up. See how I stood up. Like going forward, if I'm sitting down, I ain't getting the blood flow. I gotta get the blood flow. I gotta get the camera shaking, you know? The camera shaking. Hang on, how my chest looking? How my chest looking? You can't really see that I've been putting in work yet, man. Don't worry about that. I ain't been working out. I ain't been working out. Don't worry about it. I ain't never said that. Want that to be a surprise. Like, where that chest came from? It's like, you know. You know. Saturation in art refers to the brightness and hue. A lot of things are being done to saturate the mind of the people with filth so that they are prevented from shining in their highest capacity. If people were shining in their highest capacity, we would be seeing shining people despite the narrative that is going on. Shining people, shining despite the narrative going on, is damaging to the narrative because right now the narrative needs despair. Right now the narrative needs exhaustion. The narrative needs compliance. It needs fear. It needs the projection of a loss of status. if the system can get you to project that you will lose status and that you will be harmed by so, that benefits the system, because then the system can let you use your own creativity in service of mutilating yourself and whoever your schemes affect, right? Because now we're getting into scheming, your projection. You're projecting a loss of status, and now it's up to your creativity and your ethics. That's literally it. And a lot of your creativity and your ethics have already been pre influenced before this phase came. Your creativity and your ethics, you think that you're a separate person. You think that you make decisions. You think that you think for yourself. But your creativity has been influenced. And when I add that with the fact that there is such a thing as purposefully created famine or drought, right? And I add those two things together. What we're talking about is you being set up to act in particular ways when things are being taken away from you. And that matters. It matters very deeply. It matters whether or not you trust yourself. It matters whether or not you trust in the capacity of other people to do particular things. Where you stand on that greatly affects how you maneuver during crisis. Whether or not that crisis is a natural crisis or an artificial crisis. And by artificial, I mean something that was constructed, construed, devised, though still has real consequences and real effects on people. So I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying that relative to real crisis, there is a distinction, and that distinction has to be taken into account. One involves no man, the other involves either one man or many. And by man, I am not staying to any one gender. Okay? Human element, human element. I didn't want this to be an hour. I really ain't want that. I ain't want that. I'm doing good though. Yeah. Saturation. So how do we empower ourselves to navigate the factors of saturation that are prevalent in our times? I think what I like to do now is when I'm getting ready to wrap things up, I'll go into solution mode. And right now I'm in solution mode. I'm solution also could be considered a combination, right? Two or more elements being combined to create a specific concoction. I'm using specific words here right now. I'm using specific words here right now. They stimulate the mind. If you ask AI a question, if you ask AI to educate you, AI will never, ever educate you the way that I can educate you. My education is deep, it educates the mind and the heart. AI cannot educate your heart. AI cannot bring to you an assortment of elements that will lead to your revelation. Not yet. Pay me for it. Just pay me. I'm here. So I've already been a particular kind of man, and right now, there's a saturation. Actually, particular kinds of men, uh, they make the moves, and they make the moves because they have particular qualities. And it makes sense that if you have shared qualities, you'd also have shared experiences or shared reactions to particular things that come up because you are of that type. Like if you are of the type of guy who is considered to be more untamed, less restricted by um, things that would lead to overthinking, right? Like that's a certain type, and that certain type is prevalent because what is the dynamic between men and women? Most of the time, women like to be approached, right? So the men who are operating within a set of natural behaviors, natural inclinations, and some of them not so natural. Whoever is amongst the men that has the thing that allows them to go up, say something, initiate something, create a direction for a place to go, all of that requires certain things. And if you're a guy and if you don't have those things, right, what that means is the market isn't saturated with your kind, right? So now I'm being specific relative to men, women. I could I could deduce that there are certain kinds of men in the dating pool right now strictly off of the way I know humans operate so far, right? Women prefer to be approached. They read literal novels. Conversation is a big part of their engagement. The men who show up, who speak and engage, they are covering the basics of what it means, um, I would say, for a woman to consider a man a man. And if a man never goes and talks to a woman, then it's probably not going to happen. And what that really means is women's only idea of men will come from the men who carry the qualities of showing up, introducing themselves, speaking, bringing things to a direction. All those things women consider basic, they consider non negotiable, whatever you want to call it. Either way, outside of preference, that doesn't change the fact that when you go out and you call yourself dating, you're hitting particular kinds of men, and that there are other kinds of men that will not be there. Flip it over to men, right? Okay. Men are wired in a certain way, and there are many women out there, many good girls, who are not being seen, and that's because men are visually wired, right? A lot of it is visual, and a lot of it has to do. I actually don't know how to describe men. On like the basic. All right, okay, so like, because men have to be initiated, and like initiated men, the template of initiated men is actually like I'm better off just going off myself than actually just using the traditional man. Yeah, because I don't even know what other men are like. Really, don't really resonate with them like that. If they're not If they're not equipped to do what I'm doing right now, then I don't really understand them. I think that's really what I'm coming to. Like I know men, I don't really. All I know is that they could be stronger, and they know that, and they struggle more than I do to make changes, knowing that. That's all I know. That's all I know. But yeah, okay, the dating market, right? The men who are saying that they're having troubles with women, they're having trouble with women the the same way saturation affects women on one side affects men on one side, because dating requires certain things, right? You gotta like putting yourself out there. That's a thing. That's a pillar. There's a whole bunch of factors. I don't want to get lost. Did I get sidetracked in my summary of the saturation? I tried. I tried. But basically, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of noise. The noise can contribute to you believing that fighting against the noise is growth. Most of the people who are susceptible to the noise don't have purpose. And the noise is increasing because the potential for large sums of people to find their purpose and be rooted in their purpose at the same time is actually extremely high. So, again, I'm saying we're in a good place. Because of the way I see things, I'll probably always come here and say, yeah, this is bad, but this is also good. You can probably expect that from me because that's just how the way I think. Right? Like noise, increased noise, and right beyond all of that is just large sum of people who are just they're ready. They're ripe, I would say. They're ripe for the initiations of spirit. What that means is they're ripe for the trials that increase awareness. And what that means is that large soups of people, groups of people, I said soups, large groups of people are right at the cusp of being able to decouple themselves from things that are mechanisms of the war machine. Because right now, people just don't have that ability. But with the saturation, the point of the saturation, right? If you ever realized fact checking, all the fear and abuse that's been going on, um, death threats, things of that nature, provocation, what have you, corruption. With all that saturation, the saturation of the people who create lesser works, they want large audiences for mm, yeah, they want an audience that's larger than the impact that they can produce, right? That's the way I word that. Clout chasers, saturation when people don't know value. That does two things. It awakens people who felt like they never could do something that they probably wouldn't have been able to do. And so they go out and do those things, making it harder to find the people who can do those things. That's only for a certain period of time. And then after some time of that saturation, there comes another change that involves people who actually have uh, valuable works. They stand out more. So that's where we're at right now. The saturation, to sum it up. Where we're at right now, you could choose. You could choose to be phony. You could have a nice curated world. And in that curated world, you could be trash. But you could still have people who view you as if you're not trash. And you could finagle your way into experiencing people treating you not like the trash that you are. And you could use all your energy to curate spaces, the people around you, what have you, to match that and live your life that way. That's one offer. The other offer is you could do the work, you could become something that you actually like. And through becoming something that you actually like, you can free yourself up to just do you. And in doing you, the people who rock with that will rock with that. And the people who don't. And you move on. One is more one is more authentic than the other. Authenticity isn't really the kicker here. The kicker here is the yield for the benefit of your life. How much yield can you extract in every moment? I have a high relative to every passing moment. I have a high degree of freedom as it pertains to extracting joy that comes from the manner in which I've met my darkness. I've met my darkness with a particular amount of awareness, and for that reason, my life is a joyful life. Not because I have fancy cars, not because I have a rotation of big booty, beautiful women to call at the wee hours of the morning. It is not because I am currently living in a home that I appreciate having heat, water, and food in. It is not because I am handsome. It's not because I'm intelligent. Yeah, this is definitely me wrapping it up right now. Saturation, vividness, remove the rubble from your heart, address the rubble in your mind, breathe, take space, listen to other opinions, ask questions, make a practice of it. Right now, saturation seems to want to put on a pedestal people who don't operate within invoking the best kinds of changes. Like right now, the best kinds of changes are not being invoked. by anyone chosen to hold the spotlight. Anyone chosen to hold the spotlight by the mainstream does not have the ability to invoke large scale progress on all levels. And that has been done intentionally because there are many beautiful, creative, talented people. And in order to make sure that talented people who want to do good for others actually take that as far as they can take it, there has to be cunning navigation because there are factors that need to be taken into account, such as not everybody wants good people to do good things. Going back to greedy people, I am through way of doing this and recording myself, I am bringing awareness in addition to other people who are doing the same thing as me in their own way with their own people at the same time who I'm not currently like physically connected with. I don't have any true contact with these people physically, but we are contacted by the way of our mission and our calling. Yeah, to represent. And as long as I represent, as long as I shine, my shining will bring resolution to other musical notes who may have been saturated with tones that do not complement them. I shine my light, I make harmonious sounds. Those harmonious sounds and that light comes from the access that I've allowed myself to have through doing the work. So the light is not mine, the intelligence is not mine, but the access is mine and it is earned through my work and my diligent work. My work and my diligent work has an undeniable element to it. And through that undeniability, it makes it to where healing can happen moment to moment as I am bringing resolution to distortions in a manner that doesn't create unnecessary conflict. It doesn't create room for confusion. It facilitates the pondering that there may be more. And by facilitating the pondering that there may be more, I'm also giving people who could be considered shallow a chance to bloom because being a shallow person isn't a crime. It's more so a direct correlation of having beneficial colors being extracted from the canvas of your experience. And there's a degree of control to which outside factors have in not allowing you to see a thing. And that can only be taken so far, being that you can make decisions of a different nature than you have previously to allow yourself to see more, to make different decisions. The market is saturated by people who have a hard time engaging in the process. And the process will be a future video that I will do. The process is very important. I think I'm trying to flesh out truly, very key things to focus on when it comes to building with another person. Because there's a call for community, and with that call for community, there's also a whole bunch of people who have a lot of things in between them that don't allow them to be in community. One of the functions of the human element is to remove that which stifles. So, I'm in my home. The human element is a life work of mine to bring myself into community. And the way that I do that is by staying away from people. Because people are annoying to me, mostly. It has a paradoxical effect. Me moving away from people allows me to show up as myself for the thing that I want to show up for. So, paradoxically, it could be said that before I already was in community. We have to be very specific. It's not enough to be in community. We have to be in intentional community. We have to be in aligned community, because if you're not in aligned community, then there is no commune at all. It's just joint dysfunction. Joint dysfunction is not community. Joint dysfunction is joint dysfunction. It's dysfunction with numbers. And you could fool yourself into saying that when you're around a bunch of dysfunctional people, that you can be comfortable being around because you're also dysfunctional, and there's a secret unspoken contract that your dysfunctions are allowed within that group and run unfettered. That's joint dysfunction. You are not engaging in community. I, in the comfort of my own home, do more for the people than a lot of people who go around other people simply for the fact that they don't want to work on being alone. They don't want to work on prioritizing valuable connections over just bringing people together. Community. Wow, you brought some people who don't have any shared life future paths together. Like, what are they going to do? We're all going to waste each other's time. Without intentional community, it's joint dysfunction, and we're wasting each other's time. So we have to move into knowing that certain things work for certain people, which is part of the human element. Not one shoe fits everything. Your culture has things that make it amazing, but it does not supersede any other culture. Everything has a blind spot, everything has a shadow. Can you get down with that? Can you rock with that? If you can rock with that, then you fall in line with this intentional community, and you don't fall in line with joint dysfunction. The world is saturated by people who operate in joint dysfunction, gather together, call it community. And then joint dysfunction reaches a point to where, funny enough, the people can't communicate. Whoa. And that's why I slay groups, because the groups have something that they believe binds them. It really doesn't. If your bind is not of the Most High, there is no bind. And so when I come binded by my own relation to Source, and a group comes against me, I slice through them. Not with brute force, but with shining. They eventually fall apart. My truth reveals the things that they thought connected them to each other, but they are actually very deeply opposed on. And the only reason why these oppositions never came up is because they adhered to relation through joint dysfunction. After a certain time, you realize through joint dysfunction, framing community as joint dysfunction, you realize that those people who you were jointly dysfunction with, you don't know how to communicate with them outside of the dysfunction. And if you can't communicate outside of the dysfunction, then you never knew true communication. You had an idea of communication. You were allowed to live a reality to where you could have conversations with these people for months, for years, and have that work. However, joint dysfunction pales in comparison to intentional community. I have inhibitors to showing up fully. Those inhibitors addressed make me more of a community building man than anything else. And so, in the comfort of my own home, doing my work, I am bringing people together, even though I'm not seemingly doing so actively. The seeds are planted, the space is curated. That which does not feed the space is being removed and highlighted as a detriment to the culture of which I'm cultivating. And when I highlight that that thing is a detriment, any person who is connected to that element of detriment knows that they are not in resonance with what I'm saying. The market is saturated by people who pander, bend over backwards, have no morals, no values, for the sake of clout, to collect people, which technically means there are a bunch of people who are trying to build communities that don't actually care about communion. And a lot of these people have been flooded into the market by way of becoming emboldened to do so. And so, one man against many. Here I am, Madara versus the Alliance. Here I am, one of many. One of many who go against the many. Many groups have problems with just one person. I'm not the only one who causes these problems. These divine problems that lead to divine solutions and resolutions. The market is saturated by unintelligent speak, unintelligent aims, a desire to run away from that which cultivates stability, while also being entitled to the rank of someone who has established stability, which is why in my presence, men change their posture, because my work is worked into my posture and my mannerisms and my expressions. They are a part of me. The work that I have done, the accolades that I have not sought from other people when I won wars that people would not pick to fight, but I fought alone because I am ethically bound by my own decision, because I genuinely want to uproot that which does not serve me. And so my mannerisms are extremely different. They are unique to me as I have been working with a philosophy of doing things unique to me as opposed to trying to find some script and some excerpt, some passage to read word for word and then base my actions off of, which is actually antithetical to dance, to flow state, to being in a moment. My development has led me away from mundane logical rendering and has elevated that to something else by way of incorporating lessons of the heart. I am not a mind. I also have a heart. And meeting both of those things, integrating both of those things allows me to show up in a particular capacity. Not only does it allow me to show up in a particular capacity, it allows me to show up in particular capacities at particular times despite particular pressures. The cultivation of the abilities is my priorities, and that is a reflection of my deep intelligence combined with the logic of the mind and the feeling of the heart, two different types of intelligence. So I make different decisions because my heart beats different. Because my heart beats different, I appear in many instances foolish relative to the ones who are following the script, which is foolish because the script, if you're watching the play, doesn't serve the people who play the roles mostly. The people who play the roles through observation in mass are treated as exposable, despite being the backbone of the play, despite being the one that carries the motion picture forward. The actors who play the most important roles can still be treated as expendable. They can still be leashed and led like an animal, despite the fact that their position leads to the progress of the motion being carried. The motion couldn't be carried. The motion picture wouldn't move forward without the actor. Yet, the ones who play the role wind up in positions to where they are considered expendable. Such a thing could only be happened if there is a way lost. If there was some sort of denouncing, overlooking, if there was some lack of appreciation for the thing that makes the action valuable, as opposed to just feeling good. There's a lot of saturation with people who want to feel good, but they don't want to be good. I'm here because I want to be good, and I am good, but I'm not good. I'm great. I don't want to be good. I want to be great. So it was a time where I was being good and I was being good. Like I was good at being good, but I wasn't meant to be good. I'm actually pretty great at being great. I'm so great at being great. Sometimes I make greatness seem too easy. People might want to hurt themselves because I'm great at being great. I make great look easy. I need to be greater at being great to learn that there's a time and a place to make greatness look easy. Sometimes you just gotta let the people feel the dark side of the greatness. A testament to my greatness. I know when to let people feel the dark side of the greatness so that they can come into full resolution of the greatness. Now they have appreciation for greatness. Now they're seeing greatness in different places. Greatness has always been in those different places. It's just that because of the way things are set up, you can choose to have a certain resolution in life. I have way more pixels than a lot of people. It's very dense, very densely pixelated man I am. My frame rate is very high. High frame rate. I actually started having fun after like an hour. I was gonna cut. I could have cut it off at an hour. I could have cut it off at an hour. I started having mad fun. So yeah, that's the saturation. You know, a lot of things are happening to where trash is just popular now, and that's a very successful movement. I'm gonna say the movement is so successful, and the people who are being used to push that moment are so susceptible that there is going to be increased movement as I'm talking about um, trash becoming more visible. Trash, a very general term. When I say trash, I just mean that things that are not captivating to the heart and mind being given stage and precedence as if they were things that were captivating. What that's going to do is going to embolden people who can't do the thing to fully believe that they can do the thing and probably get into a space to where they will do the thing for all the wrong reasons. On the other hand, there's going to be people wired like me. We're going to be doing the work. We're going to be making our strides. And what's going to happen is, at a certain point of successful integration, the work will become undeniable. And then you'll find yourself in a position to where you don't have to be bending over backwards. You don't have to be scheming and conniving to frame yourself in a particular way. What would happen is wherever you wind up that people will accept you, you would have rank and you would be able to scale your rank up and represent yourself more fully as time passes on. Through representing yourself more fully as time passes on, you create a space for people who are wired like you to do the same, to blossom into their expressions, which is what is really healthy and really needed right now in a time to where saturations contribute to the suppression of a voice, the suppression of someone's visibility. People are going out less, hibernation phases, whatever. I'm not here to frame anything in a way other than as completely as I can frame it. There's bad sides over here, there's good sides over here. We hear guys. We hear guys. It takes time for change to take place. But if you line up, you'll see that changes are taking place and it'll be easier for you to change. And you'll be more informed on what changes to make to benefit you and whoever you come across long term. And so this is the saturation. I got some bangers coming on the way. What's happening now is a lot of noise. I am a representative of someone who has done the work to find themselves rooted in purpose. So much so that the noise of the world that is right now, that consumes so many who would consider themselves better and better off than me, while I'm sitting here living like a king in comparison. That noise is contributing to people being very disoriented. What is valuable in the world to come and the worlds that are coming? Is it the things that people have been chasing that lead them in prolonged states of projected lack, um, prolonged states of envisioning dystopian futures, no way out, prolonged states of hopelessness, despite having access to so many other things? Big Daddy Screen can make things seem a certain way for certain people. Not everybody uses the internet. It just so happens that the people who use the internet have the qualities of the loudest, most vocal people. And so the loudest and the most vocal people are always going to be speaking relatively about the same things because they're wired to pick up the same kinds of information, relatively speaking. Man, I got kind of quiet on that one, but I feel like I wrapped it up towards the end. You know what I'm saying? It's about time for me to go, and you know what I'm saying. Training. Sit with the sadness. Sit with the sadness that's yours. Sit with the joy that's yours. The saturation, all this noise. It's a lot of stuff that's not mine. I gotta work with what's mine. I got some. I got some heat coming. Musical heat. I couldn't be bringing the harmonies, high quality harmonies, sounds, pieces. Couldn't really bring that together without maintaining myself. And maintaining myself is actually resting on a lot of things. I have to know myself. I have to know how things affect myself. And then I have to simulate how I would operate within certain sceneries and then move accordingly. But that's just my own personal thing, man. I'm talking about my own personal thing, man. As you grow, you're gonna get your own tips and tricks. I got my own powers. No one size shoe fits all. I've been saying that. I got my own ways. I'm showing up right now as a representative of someone who values being impervious to the noise of the world, which really serves me right now. I'm a little bit different from other people who could be considered rebellious because I do have a balance of rebelling against a thing that I believe should not be trusted while also engaging with that thing to know that thing as deeply as I can know it so I can know how much to trust it, when to trust it. And with that being said, signing off. Love you guys. Get that frame rate up. Drink water. Eat greens. Data centers are bad. Food, water, shelter. There's so many things to talk about. Talk about food. Talk about the seizure of the meat industry. Talk about the water. Talk about the rivers. Talk about the oceans. Talk about the homes. Food, shelter, water. Food, shelter, water. And the saturation of all the noise that's going on. To all of my people who are aligned like me, pick one. You want to bring awareness to something, you can do it casually. Just casually drop I don't do that. They treat animals this way. It's not for me. Casually. But the people who have the strength to put the foot down in the moment where the foot needs to be put down, that's what we got to be doing. All right? So get out there. Go do the thing. And if the thing that you need to do is rest, then go get those covers, bundle up, don't think about it, and take it easy, man. Peace.